work. But the monasteries needed a huge workforce to take care of all their lands.
Where is that? The tower also?
That's St. Rule's Tower. That's all that's left. St. Rule's Tower and the chancel, that's all that's left of the original church on this side. 100 years older than the abbey that you're standing in right now. St. Rule was the Greek who brought the bits of Andrew. Okay? And now it's so, since the Reformation, this has been used as a graveyard. Mostly the graves are from the late 1700s till present. The big modern part of the graveyard's over in that corner. I'm going to take you to the cloister. Cloisters were very, very important. It was where they grew all the plants that they needed, the herbs, medicines. They grew a lot of their vegetables. And right here, you can see there's a lovely square walk around this square garden. These church properties all had cloisters. Now if you look up at the wall, you'll see some corbels sticking out. Those were the supports for the half-timbered roof. The timbered roof would come down from the wall down to about a little bit above Harry's height here. There would have been arches, lovely stone, or in this case they were wooden arches, air coming in and flowing out. So you were under cover here in the cloister, but you were not free from the elements. It was cold, it was windy, and it was here in the cloisters that Steve would have spent time walking. You would be meditating. You would not be speaking. You can't speak to anybody except in the chapter house. But this is where you would walk. All right? And of course there were libraries, there were scriptoriums, where you would spend time each day working on your Gospels. Your Gospel book that would take years to produce.
You all will remember, try to keep this in your mind, when you get to Cambridge and Oxford, you see smaller versions of this in replication. You'll see cloisters that you walk around. In Westminster Abbey, you'll see something similar to this. And it won't be a church that length, but you'll see churches set up the same way with the cruciform. For those of you from Briarwood, you'll notice that our church is set up the same way, except not quite as pronounced. And when you fly over the church, you see the cross. When you look up, the lighting, you see the cross. When you step back and look, you see the cross. So it's built around that concept. Well, anyway, when you get to some of these other places, kind of wish we'd maybe seen those first so you could overlay it here. But if you can kind of remember what you're looking at when you see those there, this will make a lot of sense to you when you see one. Right? So I'll try to point it out to you.
Were that the monks who were out first?
Yes, that was used for typically near the garden, wash house, the low building that's in a different color. That was built later. The building back in the back, that's part of the original, lots and lots of apartments, things happening. The monks brewed ale, they baked bread. I mean, we had everything here. I didn't mention baptism. One thing that changed after the Reformation, baptism suddenly changed. Baptism was certainly important, but in Scotland, and I don't know about England, maybe you know, but in Scotland, the post-Reformation churches took baptism out of the church, and they actually put it outside the west door. That notion of the west being the place where, you entered as a sinner. Well, a baby was baptized literally outside the door and then brought into the church. And even today, in many, many churches you go into, the baptismal font will be at the back of the church. Where is it in Briarwood?
Oh, it's right to the side of the pulpit.
Okay, so it's up front.
Yeah, what you've got in the, I won't get down the weeds of the various churches on this, but what you would have is you would have people gathering for the worship service, and anybody could come to a worship service, whether you're a member or not. But only the members normally would be admitted into communion. And then the baptism services, there would actually be smaller churches. They would call them basilicas and other titles. Smaller churches outside that actually, there's where you did the baptisms, and only members and immediate family could come to those baptisms there. And but now, over a period of time, the baptismal font was moved back into the church, and it was always the baptismal font and the Lord's Supper, the communion table, were never elevated in what was called the nonconformist Reformed churches. They were always on the floor. And now the Lutheran and Episcopal churches would continue to have the elevated Lord's Supper and the split chancel, usually, with the pulpit on one side and the lectern for leading worship on the other side. But but over a period of time, you would have particularly in the Presbyterian, you'd have the central pulpit elevated, the communion table down, and the baptismal font off to the left. That would be accessible, but the centerpiece would be the pulpit.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do is walk you over to the Bishop's Palace, which is the castle. It too is in ruins. It too gave up its stones to build the harbor. But let's go and see what is there, including a bottle dungeon.
When we get there, I want to tell you a little story of what happened on June the 6th, 1559.
Okay, good.
Is that when you get to